Add that to the stream. All right, I think I'm live. Yep, I am. Did it just switch back to the thing on its own? Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rap Raven. Just trying to find the thing I just clicked on. There it is. Ah, marvelous. Excellent. Super fantastic. Welcome. For those who don't know, this show was actually banned last week. We'll go into that in a bit. So, unfortunately, we missed last. If you might have missed last week's show, you might never, ever hear it or see it again. It's forbidden, gone. All right. So, what we're going to do, let's see if we can go through our tradition. Right, so let me just set myself up. Sorry, give me 17 seconds, people. 17 seconds. Let me push these stuff to the side. Voila, fantastic. All right, got a lot of stuff on my screen. That's what happens when you are a designer. All right, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. Cool. Now, where are we? All right, so let's go for it. It's tradition for those who don't know. So after much research, I've unfortunately concluded that currently Black people are collectively inadequate. As you know, week to week, I say the same chant. I advise everyone to do this. This is something that is a reset button. When you're trying to get Black people to work collectively in the right direction, that's for the betterment of Black people. Usually people will say things that will put full stops and drag their feet. And we just want to, set the scene very correctly. The reason why we're trying to fix things is because at the moment, because of a history of many things, Black people's teamwork skills is somewhat lacking. And then, this is obviously by design, blah, blah, blah. But unfortunately, we are collectively inadequate. And the idea is to fix that. So hopefully everyone who's listening can be a part of that fantastic process of fixing that truth, fixing that. Let's go. All right. So usually when we talk, people get very passionate. And I'm always going to send a link out for people to jump in and give their say, because it's that kind of show. Black people are always welcome to have their say on the show. But obviously, we want to make sure we do things respectfully. So we have the 4D values, and that's discipline, dedication, dignity, and discernment. Feel free to take the 4D values out in the world when you're trying to practice Black betterment. And remember, when you're talking to other Black people, use these things because we're collectively inadequate and there's a lot of emotions around. Sometimes when we talk about topics, we become completely enthralled with passion. And we start name calling and do all that kind of stuff, and then it becomes a new thing, and all that good stuff. So let's try to have these 4D values at least today, and maybe even outside of today when you go out and you're trying to do good work for Black people. Fantastic. Look. So also, as I said before, languages. Let's try to use more descriptive languages and not derogatory language. So on the screen at the moment there's some. So. Some people might want to use words towards the left-hand side when they get frustrated or they're trying to be cool and trendy and all that good stuff. I recommend when you're trying to talk to Black people about constructive stuff, you do not do that. I definitely recommend you do not do this. I definitely recommend that you try to use more descriptive languages. Reason being because, sometimes you joke around, you're talking, and then, people don't, they disagree. And then you use a certain kind of lingo kind of language. And then that becomes the center of the topic. And then we're no longer talking about Black betterment. We're talking about how we feel about a particular word and should we use that word. So this advice I'm saying is do that. Let me just make sure I've sent out the link because sometimes people ask me last.com, but don't worry about that. I mean, it doesn't matter. This show is recorded, so I'm sure they can always reverse it. Well, to be honest with you want to get these shows live because the more topics we tackle, the more likely you might miss some stuff. So, because they might remove it from the internet, unfortunately. But anyway, let's move on. So, what is Black betterment? Black betterment is Black people helping Black people, Black issues. Fantastic. Yes, good. That's what it is. That's not super science, not no kind of, ancient forbidden art. It's literally Black people helping Black people, Black issues. That's it. And that means it's a lifestyle. So yes, this broadcast is promoting the lifestyle of Black betterment. This is a lifestyle I practice every day. I try my best whenever I can. And I recommend it that as all Black people, let's try our best to actually practice Black betterment. Because if Black people don't help Black people, no one will. These are the facts. That's really true. These are the facts. Now, where are we? Okay. Copyright disclaimer under the section 107 of Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing non-profit, educational, or personal use. tips that balance the favor in the fair use. So, sometimes we might say things or throw videos from random places. We're not trying to, claim work as our own. We're trying to learn scholarship debate. So we use, random stuff. So we have to say this. Apparently, this is helpful because, sometimes you get strikes on your thing and people get upset and start crying. And, it's never nice. Never nice. So that's what that is. So we're going to skip through that. Blah, blah. Now, today's topic. This is this week's topic. It was going to be last week's topic. Would have been good if it was last week's topic because it was fresh. I don't know if you watched the football and these kinds of stuff. The England football team, many years have struggled. Now, so those who don't watch football, the last time England, the football team, did quite exceptional was in 1966 when England, the nation, hosted the World Cup, and they actually won the World Cup. And this was like the most amazing thing that the England football team done. Unfortunately, since that time, they've struggled. Sometimes might hit the semi, the quarterfinals, which is good for them and that kind of stuff. But generally, most English fans are not best pleased with the performance of England, I should say. But however, this year in the European Championships, which is just the European nations playing, which some might think, well, it's not quite the World Cup, so it's not as prestigious. But a lot of the best players allegedly are actually in Europe, or so they say. So to get to the final in this kind of setting is something that the English pub goers and fans and football lovers are very best pleased with, and yay, hooray, and more to say, that kind of stuff. Right? So, but obviously, I think what's remarkable about this team is there's many, many young people, and maybe that was the youth is what helped them get through. Who knows? But anyway, so they got to the finals. Everyone's crying, laughing, cheering, good stuff. The world is the best. And they played very hard. They scored goals. The opposition scored goals. And then in the sport football, when you draw, you take a penalty shootout. And 5 people come up from one side, 5 people come from the other side. They kick the ball, and they try to score that way. And they have 5 attempts. And whoever scores the most attempts after 5 is the World Cup champions. Now that's what happened last week or the week before, sorry, because obviously I was banned for a week. And what happened is the penalties were taken. And there are players of African descent, black players, who took the penalties. Now, of the 5 players who took the penalties, 5 of them of African descent, of different shades, and they all missed. It was saved, or this kind of stuff. And people were upset, crying. We had a chance. And what followed was actually a barrage of racism and mistreatment throughout the social networks and pubs and clubs, and there was reports of maybe individual black people being attacked, and some games were being pushed out allegedly of like attacking black people when you get points, this kind of stuff. Obviously there's that happened here and there, but obviously that's not something that the majority of black people concerned with. Like most of the black people who are out and about, I'm not really concerned with that kind of stuff, and can handle ourselves quite well. But this is the culture of some situations. For those who don't know football, especially England, but Europe in general, has a history of what they call hooliganism. Sorry, let me say it correctly. And it's basically where fans of the football become so passionate by their teams that they go around and drink and attack each other, and this is a cultural phenomenon. And the football don't like it because they smash up stuff. They cost money, and this went on as well. I don't know if it was necessarily related to it was related to losing, but was it related to the racial element? We don't know. But we did see videos of people, saying they discuss, and Twitter images and all that kind of comparing black people to monkeys, and the traditional stuff. So this show is about that, and I'm just going to go in about how should black people react to football fan racism. Betterment Broadcast. I should have deleted that. You don't need that in there, but it's in there anyway. So how should they react? So for those who don't know as well, in America, George Floyd was killed, and before that, there was the racist murders that keeps going on in the police stations when they're arresting many people, but more predominantly black people. And there were football players who disagreed with this, and they took a knee, and then they were severely punished, as you do. And some of them still might. Kaepernick, his name was the original guy, and I don't know if he's working at the moment, but I know he was definitely punished for trying to raise awareness about murders of black people by the state. And it wasn't the greatest outcome for him. But yes, like I said, when you try to help black people, you will be destroyed. But in the future, when you're dead, they will come to your funeral with the best suit, the biggest flowers, and they'll call you a hero, as is the case with most black people who try to help black people. So so that went on. So I think in a form of solidarity in the concept of racism in football, racism in general, there have been throughout the league certain teams taking a knee, saying, we're taking a knee before the match starts to symbolize we don't support racism, all that good stuff, because it's not good. So that's now going on in football, similar kind of thing to the American football in America, but different reasons, but similar reasons at the same time. So that's also something we're going to cover, because I know that some people weren't best pleased when teams were trying to show solidarity with ending racism, and there's probably history of that. But as tradition always dictates, we have some videos to play. So what we're going to do, these are not my videos, but what we're going to do, we're going to start with a gentleman, a European gentleman, ringing up to some show many years ago, how he feels about multicultural England, and and how that impacts the football, and how it impacts how he views his teams. Let's have a sneak peek. Bon appetit. When I press play, here we go straight away.
That wonderful, vibrant, together, multicultural team. England take the pitch. Players getting on incredibly well despite all their different backgrounds, realising more unites than divides them.
I've been known to get a bit excited when people talk about multiracialism. I was just listening to you saying about the vibrant multiracial society. That presumably means when it was just a white society, it was non-vibrant, a total waste of time.
Well, I think things like our diets are far better. I'm glad we now eat curry and Greek food. When I grew up in the 1960s, it was far less vibrant. Certainly, food and music too.
The food is more vibrant now, is it? Well,
yeah, of course. What would you like? I mean, look, when I was growing up, the spaghetti only came in tins and hoops and sometimes letters. I much prefer fresh pasta.
Well, rather than go down the food line, I suppose we should stick to the multiracial society. And no, I totally disapprove of the multiracial society. The England football team doesn't represent me at all. In fact, it represents everything that I'm against.
Oh, I'm sorry you're missing out and being such a stick in the mud, Ian. We're a migrant country. The French Huguenots, Romans, German tribes, Irish.
You're quite right. They were all white people.
If you think is that your issue?
All right, so what we're learning here is obviously, you have a nation of people, and English is an ethnic group, and they're in England, and there is, some people might not be best pleased that other people have come from other places. Historically, the English people came from other places, but more recent times, different people. This is not going as far back as the Cheddar Man, these kinds of things, and yeah, some people, and people not happy with foreigners, but you do find that actually it's not necessarily foreigners that some people are not best pleased with. It's more so the non-European, non-white foreigners, because it's easy for them to assimilate, and they see themselves similar in many aspects. Or generally, the whole black and white dynamic plays out. People just don't like black people. There you go.
So you're talking about
that's your issue.
Well, of course, I'm talking about.
What do you mean, of course?
Well, of course, the people you're talking about, the different white invasions to this country, they were all people of a similar type.
What? So you couldn't laugh at Lenny Henry because he's got a black face? You couldn't...
I think the last thing I remember about Lenny Henry was complaining that there's not enough black faces on TV.
He's probably right, isn't he?
Well, no, I think there's far too many, actually. I don't think it should be.
Why? What's wrong with you? Why, when everyone else is getting behind this England team and loves the fact?
Everybody is. I mean, the media is promoting it.
Well, maybe you and your mates are not, but everybody else is. Haven't you seen the TV audiences?
According to your guest that you had on before the break, the media is all against multiracialism. I don't know what sort of world he's living in, but
I think he means the Daily Mail.
He said the media.
Yeah, I think he means the Daily Mail. Though.
Well, I don't think you mean to tell me the Daily Mail is against the multiracial society.
Well, I think it runs a rather large proportion of stories that, should we say, are very divisive.
Well, I think you're probably just talking about Brexit, to be perfectly honest.
So Ian, do you want England to lose today?
Yes.
What, because you're so obsessed by race and your bigotry and your prejudice is so poisonous, you want England to lose?
Yeah, I hate seeing my country destroyed by multiracialism, and anything that represents multiracialism, and the media is continually promoting, as we were told previously a few minutes ago on your programme, the World Cup is all about the promotion of multiracialism.
So you want England to lose because Raheem Sterling, Dele Alli, Jesse Lingard, they have a different skin tone to you?
Well, you see, when you talk about the subject of race, it goes a lot deeper than skin colour. If you turn the average black man instantly white, you'd still be able to recognise him as a black man. That's about race, not just about colour.
I'm just gonna give you a nice, friendly little bit of advice. I'd just go make yourself a nice cup of tea, take it into a darkened room, get a bag of frozen peas from the freezer, and put them on your head, and just reflect on what you're saying.
All right, interesting stuff. I think usually when people speak this way, people make jokes and they disregard them. I think you should try to actually listen to these individuals because they're much more numerous than you'll like to believe. And obviously, when England lost, you saw many of them come forward and their views were more prominent. So don't want to disregard that. Now we'll go ahead. Now next up, we have basically, I'm going to talk through this one here. This is just some collage. I don't know where it's from, whoever the thing came from, I don't know. But it's just black people being abused and obviously crying. And I'm going to talk through this and explain how some stuff. So here we go. Rewind. La la la. Black people not happy about racism. Let's go. Well, hi. Right, yep. Swear they travel making faces. Black man not happy. Oh, yeah, he's upset with something. Probably racism. Yep, that's what it is. Doesn't like racism. Look at that. Shouting at the black man, all that good stuff. Never mind. Yeah, that's the guy's channel, by the way. Whoever I got the video from. All right. Black person pondering why they booing or whatever, and then why don't you love me? How you love me? Bananas. Yep. You get used to bananas being thrown on the field. This is a history of that. Black people not best pleased. Kicking the ball in anger, all that good stuff. Yeah, black man. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He wants to show his discomfort. Yeah, you're making monkey note sounds. I think he's not happy about it. Wants him to stop. Alright, sad music and all that. So I'm just going to narrate the three things. A black man looking very hysterical. Some racist probably said his clothes come off. Alright. Black man's not happy even though he's got to go. Looks like something like that. Don't know. Shaking hands, doesn't want to shake his hand, but he wants to shake his hand. Yeah, don't want to shake his hand. Point out something, yeah, racism, alright. Yeah, look at the eyes, all that stuff. Sad music. Yeah, swearing, what best people do. Oh, kicking the ball, is that what they're saying? Oh, there. Yeah, look, he's saying, have you heard that? Yes, get used to it. We're in a foreign country. They don't like us. Even parks, even the park. Yeah, let's even the park, big stadium park, near the end. Voila. Throwing bananas, good stuff. Oh, what is he going to say? Going to say something? Yeah, you're going to say horrible stuff. In another language, probably will do. There you go. Ooh, you're trying to console him. Trying to get a little black consoling because that's what happens with black people. All right, fantastic. So there's some little, it probably goes on for another 10 minutes, who knows. But what I'm saying is, from this point, I'm going to go into a presentation about how black people should react to racism. I think I'm never best pleased with when I see black people react because it kind of shows a psyche in the sense of there's an expectation that this shouldn't be happening or this like we're in a better place now, so why is this happening? And I think this correlates with many other things. I think many black people try to fit in, especially football players. You know that many football players who are black, for a majority, will not marry black women. And some people say this is a way of trying to assimilate and be accepted. I even saw some documentary, some kind of show where they were saying some black men were being with non-black women so they could be on magazine covers and get airtimes. I don't know how true this is, but what I'm saying is, when you see black men crying because people who are racist, this is because they haven't been raised by other black people who actually showed them what life's really about and what's the world's really about. And this is the thing: there needs to be a greater training about what racism, white supremacy is, and where black people are in that dynamic, and the way you behave to try to maneuver through it and empower yourself and your people group. And unfortunately, many black people are subservient, and that's why you're seeing this kind of behavior. But you can't blame them, because hurtfulness is hurtfulness. Just gonna play some other videos of, I think there's some guy's page. He'll promote it, so I'm not retaking his stuff, but I'm sure he's got his logo there, so you can follow him and make him famous. Blah blah. Here we go. Rewind.
Maybe Meghan Markle was right when it comes to England being racist. If you want to stay up to date on viral stories, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. The team is about 50% from immigrant families and led England to its first final in over 50 years. Racists spewed vile words towards Jadon Sancho, Marcus Rashford, and Bukayo Saka, who are all black, after they all missed kicks during England's penalty shootout defeat in the Euro 2020 championship match.
Yeah.
Disgruntled England fans took to social media to take out their anger through racist remarks towards their black players, even going as far as to hurl the N-word and post monkeys and bananas on the black players' social media accounts. A mural of Marcus Rashford, who fights child food poverty, was also defaced. Boris Johnson, the England team, and the Football Association condemned the remarks. Prince William writes that he is sickened by the racist abuse aimed at England players after last night's match. So before anyone starts abusing these guys, remember that they carried England to their first final in over 50 years, successfully campaigned for child hunger and free meals for kids, and publicly stood up against racism and racial injustice. After seeing these disgusting comments, all I can say is, you deserved to win, Italy. What do you guys think of the...
Cool. That's that guy's page, JD Morris or something. It just came across it on the search. Now, one more video. Now, this is more so about the history of racism, and I think some other gentlemen starts talking about, it's best not maybe just focus on hooligans. There's a bigger thing at play here, and let's give him 2 minutes to express himself. Go!
Do you feel that racism has been a taboo subject within football culture and football circles?
I think, rather than a taboo subject, I think the problem with racism for the game in general is that the game has initially felt uncomfortable about even acknowledging racism. Rather, it's felt uncomfortable about acknowledging that it exists at all in the game. And that was certainly the case here. They would try and brush it under the carpet or say it wasn't anything to do with the game. It was just these people, these hooligans who'd brought it in, and that's a police matter. Gradually, the clubs have begun to realise, the clubs and the football administrators had begun to realise that actually hooliganism isn't very good for the game itself and its image. I think that's part of why there is this public concern now with racism, because the game has this rather airbrushed image, this glossy, successful, commercially attractive image of itself, and racism doesn't fit very well with that. It doesn't fit very well with consumers and customers. So racism has to be dealt with. And so that's one of the reasons I think why the game is more aware and more alert and more willing to be seen to be acting against racism. But another bigger danger is that the game also likes this idea that we know who the racists are. And it's easy to identify racists. They're skinheads, they're people with swastikas on their heads. They're these hooligans that everyone keeps on talking about. And therefore, once you deal with that and identify and exclude those racists, then racism will disappear. That racism is something that other people do, and we all know who they are. And what that means is that the kind of institutional racism within the game itself doesn't get dealt with. It's still there, and it's still kind of accepted as the way in which clubs do their normal business. And so now, academics and others are beginning to say, let's disconnect this idea that racism is just hooliganism is in another form. Let's look much more seriously about who you're employing,
Okay.
or what your policies are in terms of recruiting, other kinds of staff.
Interesting.
Or are you exhibiting racism in terms of recruiting players?
Probably.
Or in terms of what happens in the boardroom? And I think that that will be the new battleground about race and race.
So this is something you must remember. Like, remember what I tell you about Europeans and Africans, black people, white people, and the history of interactions and all that good stuff. This is you see that even though it's England, that same concept is all over whenever Europeans and Africans or Africans and blacks or whatever meets. You get that dynamic power and ownership, and obviously you have very high play black players who tend to marry Europeans and try to simulate that way. But then no matter what, the owners are always of European descent, and they very rarely hire certain people, and it's not, you don't see too many black people ownership. And I think once again, black people only seem to get rally up when bananas are thrown and all that kind of stuff. But let's carry on listening. Go.
Racism, opening up clubs for investigation on this, because football clubs are extremely important symbolizers of local forms of community and representation. And in some places, I think clubs have been very comfortable with the idea that they think themselves as good community clubs. But I think about it in terms of those old traditions that we've been talking about earlier, this old rootedness, this old form of identification with the past and with tradition and who we are. And they haven't realized or recognized that actually ideas about community have changed, and the people who make up local communities have changed. And the clubs somehow have to reorient themselves to make themselves more attractive and more open to new kinds of communities. I don't think anywhere near enough thought or action has gone into that. So I think in some places clubs, and this doesn't just occur in Britain, it occurs all over the world, clubs still appeal to very closed and exclusive kinds of communities, which are often built around ethnic enmities and forms of ethnic exclusion.
Right.
And I think it's interesting that in some places in this country, in England certainly, the local football clubs are strongly identified with traditional white forms of community identification. And they're actually still seen by long established ethnic minority communities as exclusive forums, as dangerous places, as places that they don't belong. They're not included in this sense of community. So I think that will be where the focus will turn next, and away from this simple identification of hooligan fans with overt racism, which to some extent, at least in England, not in other parts of the world perhaps to the same extent, but in some places that overt expression of racism has been confronted and is being dealt with.
All right, so that's the brother there giving his opinion. Let me just read out some stuff before we go and start sending out the links to have people have their say. Big up, who's big up? Hold on. Big up, sister Kushti. I'm just hoping this is. We've got some from Version of Football. Little message from Mario Balotelli, very famous football player. I hope I said his name right. Probably didn't. Even though his name is Italian, he's actually from, I think, Ghana, but I could be wrong because I'm, not that knowledgeable about football. Shame on me. But if he did say this, I agree with it. And if he didn't say it, I hope he did. And we'll pretend he did. I challenge you all African footballers to put money together with me to leave the racist Europe and build stadiums in Africa and develop our youth. Sounds good. We have money and we can build at least 5 world-class stadiums in each country. Sign a petition that no players will be exported to Europe ever again. Here in Africa, they play under love of their sisters and brothers with no one singing racist chants on and stands against them. With more talent, we can make our Champions League quality and our leagues quality. We have great talent that's never appreciated abroad. Yeah, so obviously that was an individual there who got his fair share of boos. And yeah, wanted to really synchronize in there, but they didn't really want to go in. And he said something that really I would like black people and Africans and all that to say that before people throw bananas at you. I don't think the motivation for you to do for yourself is because people hate you. I think it should just be a basic thing. I think it's just to be a survival mechanism that most, if not all, people groups do, but not black people, because unfortunately many of us have been rendered collectively inadequate. But we're going to do speaking of the whole teamwork epic idea, sorry. When I first started this broadcast, I did some diagrams and some examples, and I think because I use football, here we go, voila. I use football as a metaphor, yeah, or analogy. I'll use it again, just and this was the concept I was trying to explain about the collective inadequacies of Black people. And for those who can't see, who's probably cleaning their house and they're just listening to the fantastic show, what I have on the screen is a made-up country in fancy football league, made-up team, sorry, and the team is called Black Country Rangers FC. All right, and basically what it is I've been told that these are the best black football players in the world. I can't confirm that, but apparently they're very good. And the idea is, if you had all the best black football team in one team, they'll probably be really good. They'll probably win a lot, if not all. Who knows? But what I was saying is that's kind of where you want to be in this analogy. But unfortunately, today, when it comes to black people working with black people, now the diagram is drastically changed, and people are not actually working as a team. You have people out in the stand, people who goalkeepers out trying to score goals. You have strikers talking to people in the bench. It's just it's a hot mess for those who can see it. And that's kind of where black people are today. You see, it's there is no real drive for teamwork, and that is really most unfortunate. That really is most unfortunate. But that's why we kind of want to be talking about some of this stuff. And I think to answer the question, how should black people react to football fans' racism? I think if black people accept Black Betterment and they want to help black people based on black issues and stay dedicated and build black communities and all that good stuff, the racist chance will hurt you less. It almost bounce off you. Why racism hurts many black people isn't because they're alpha males or beta males or whatever kind of males you want to say, and they're humans and their feelings are hurt. It's because unfortunately many black people have been fed this illusion that everyone is equal, and the world, there is no injustice. The past is the past, that kind of stuff. And they walk around with this kind of stuff, and then when people call them monkeys and stuff, they start crying. And that's because they haven't really built up a defense for it. But the greatest defense is actually having your own people group, strengthen your family group. It's the foundation, isn't it? And then, and the joy and the motivation and self-esteem comes from you progressing, fixing the issue. Because unfortunately, many black people from the past has been terribly mistreated. And that brings it when it comes to football. I remember there was a question, and I saw some guy's small documentary on it, but I'm not going to play it. But it was a question when they looked at the Brazilian team and where the other one, the Colombian, and give me another one, the Colombian, Brazilian, and another one, I forgot. And they said there was a lot of black people in there, and they looked at the Argentinian team, and they said, where's all the black players? And Argentina has a very interesting history of black people because even like most South American countries wanted to get rid of black people. And definitely not have black people in a form of power, and and encourage what they called racial whitening. This process was more intense in Argentina, and what they would do is they would do the same thing. They would renegade black people to slums and this kind of stuff. But there was actually like a war in South America, and what they would do is they would put all the black. Let me actually put your fantastic wiki page in there so you can Google that. If I can even find it. Where is my, there we go. Afro-Argentinians, voila. Look at that, what a great name, sounds so good. Yeah, so what happens is the war was on, and they would put them like, in the first line, and they would die, and then, what would happen as well, you would have, because of the self-esteem issues and the low economics, you have many black women either marrying European men, as you probably might find today, or vice versa. And then you had some black women not being with anyone at all, and this was a deliberate thing that happened in Argentina. So that's why today you never see any black Argentinians in the football team. I think you might see maybe some so-called mulatto ones. And when I say there was only one goalkeeper when they woke up, I think. But naturally, if he's mulatto in Argentina, mixed race as we call him today, mixed black, depending on the political terms we say. by today his entire family will be of European phenotype and probably assimilated and into European. So that's that, and that's pretty much going to be the fate of most of the Afro Argentinians. So this is what I'm saying. Like, I think you understand that, you know, economically and all kind of stuff, people of European descent historically have done dedicated continuous work to keep your arm's length. And even if you try to really do really good and do stuff, you're still going to have that massive crowd who see you as a monkey and a banana. And it's what I'm saying is you can marry as many Europeans as you want. You can score as many goals as you want. That is going to change history. And unfortunately, that you cannot score your way into freedom or into betterment. It's just not going to happen. So this is something for Black people to think about. As you know, the Black Love campaign is coming out. So I'm going to try to spread Black people loving Black people and Black men marrying Black women, or more particularly constructive Black man for constructive Black woman. But yeah, so what we're going to do as well, before I send this link out, just for those who missed last week's show, unfortunately last week's show was banned, and let me just do a brief what it was. I can't mention words anymore, but because I have a history of rhyming and rapping, I can say that the things that we briefly mentioned rhymed with taxi station. So, you know, there's algorithms that look up certain words. So we were talking about the taxi station, which you can't talk about on this internet. And because we were talking about the taxi station, the algorithms and the text finders and that, it just banned the show and put a strike and that stuff. And what I wanted to mention about that as well with the taxi station and these things is it was quite inspirational because it showed me that there is a group of people somewhere around the world and they want a certain narrative and they'll do anything to get it. And I think that's really cool. I think that's something that Black people can learn from, you know. Like, you want a certain narrative and you do whatever you can to make sure that's the narrative people stick to. Very shocking, but it's still very inspirational. So if you wonder why last week's show is gone, because we spoke about the taxi station. But in that particular taxi station, and the theme of the taxi station we're not going to talk about, but what we mentioned was there was a video put on by Black celebrities in the UK, and they were trying to promote a particular kind of taxi station. And what happens, whether people want to go to a taxi station or not go to a taxi, I don't care. It's not really my concern at this point. My emphasis of study was when Black people who don't tend to do Black betterment activities talk to Black people, I would say you have to have a pan perception. Now, this isn't always right because, you know, some people can break the mold and this is not what they're doing. We tend to find if they never normally talk to Black people generally and they want you to do something, but yet they're all married to non-Black people and they talk about Black people as their community and my family, this kind of stuff, but none of them are married to Black people at all, then that's a red flag. I know it sounds controversial, but I hope so because I like controversy because I think I can really defend controversy. And I think that when it comes to Black people trying to sell stuff to Black people in England or around the world, if you have a collection of them and they all have the same pattern where none of them talk to Black people outside of this particular campaign, yet when you follow their house life, they live in different areas, which is fine. People want to live in good areas. But they're all married to Europeans. This, for me, is a form of collective inadequacies. I'm not saying that you can't marry non-Black people. Do what you're doing. But the more you start engaging this kind of stuff and then you start preaching to Black people about, here's what you should be doing as a Black person, Black power, that kind of stuff, it doesn't really work well. And as, of course, people like me will always try to review it and train Black people of how to be better synchronized with Black people. I really do believe, especially in England, that Black people are collectively inadequate. I really do. It's a truth that I'm always going to say. And from the reactions to the bananas being thrown on the pictures of people we calling monkeys at football games or whatever, to Black celebrities all married to non-Black people telling Black people how to help Black people. It's just when I was a kid I would look past it, but as a man, a learned man now, it's all part of the same collective inadequacies that I see from Black people. And I think, like with most things, there needs to be a rebranding, and hopefully Black Them is that rebranding. So anyway, that was talked about last week, the taxi stations, and the show was blocked. And we also spoke about Bill Cosby. I don't think they blocked because of that, But what I was trying to say is, unfortunately, when many black people, and this is another thing that I was going to, and show might do about, and it's about black people have so few people who are in the mainstream or who do constructive stuff you can learn from. It's hard to know when bad press follows them. Is that their shortcomings, or is it a actual dedicated plan to undermine black progress? Because we've seen both, you see. And what I would always say to black people, and this is hard, try to be constructive in everything you do. People go, that's crazy talk, Raven. That's crazy talk. No, I know it sounds crazy, but the reason is, if you are mistreating children, mistreating women, robbing and stealing, and whatever it might be, and then you are actively trying to help black people, these are the things they'll use to undermine black progress. Although with the Bill Cosby stuff, I wasn't there, and apparently he's free, so I can't really talk. But what we were doing was trying to highlight constructive things Bill Cosby did, and we spoke about hosted the first Black American documentaries, the Black Soldier, Black History, Lost, Stolen, Stayed. The Black Grand Prix series explored various aspects of history and current state of African American communities. He created and produced an animated television show called Fat Albert, which was the first fully black cartoon, or at least one of the first black cartoon that wasn't stereotypical. Unfortunately, because black people were so hated all over the world, that when cartoons were made with black people, there was always used stereotypical and of a horrible nature. So this was also the trend that when you actually own stuff, you can actually dictate how things are going to be seen. And obviously, by him making these cartoons and these shows, people started seeing black people in a different light, and they saw him in a different light, and they called him American Dad, blah, 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 all that good stuff. So that was what we talk about, but you won't be able to see that because it's gone. It's all gone. That's where it's gone. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go back to how should black people react to football fan racism, which is the question. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to send out a link. Let me quickly find that fantastic, super, mega, ultra good link, which is here, I believe. I hope so. And I'm going to post it in here. And I'm just going to, we've been a week away, so feel free to jump in. Big up Sister Kushti. And don't forget, before we all forget, and Sister Kushti's around us, we actually started a dedicated show. We have to have a dedicated channel because since I started help dedicated Black Betterment shows on my personal thing, I've been getting strikes and bans, and my channel is generally for the creative. It's actually for creative works of me as an artist, as well as me training people how to make videos, animations, audio engineering, composition, mix and mastering. That's the way I'm looking to go with training black people how to do these particular crafts. It's stuff I've been doing for 20 years. And it's how I kind of work. So I'm going to train. But that's what this really meant to be about. So I want to have a dedicated show for Black Betterment where it's black. And it won't just be me on that particular show. Everyone should be welcome to have a constructive show as long as they follow the guides and the 4D values. But let me put the link in there. Say no more. And so if anyone wants to jump in, feel free. I'm sure a lot of you had something to say. Unfortunately, the show was shut down last week, so we never got a chance to talk about it. I'm pretty sure many of you might actually be fans of football and you watched it, and maybe you have a history of racism in football. It is one of the sports where it showed itself. It became very natural. But I have done I think I've done all my stuff. I don't think there's anything more for me to say. Let me just check. I ain't got anything else. There's got so much stuff in there. Good pictures. Good stuff, though. All that is okay. Yeah, all that good stuff. Blah 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 blah. So yeah, if anyone wants to jump in, I think I've spoke for 44 minutes, which is longer than I normally speak. And now it's up to anyone who wants to jump in. The topic is how should black people react to football fans racism? You can describe how you reacted. It was it a shock? I think it was John Henry Clark said you shouldn't be surprised by anything Europeans do. Here we go. We have Brother IC3. Let's click in and welcome in. Hello, Brother IC3. Welcome. Can you hear me?
How you doing?
Very good.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Not loud and clear.
Good. Yeah. Nice to have you back again, despite the bad news of last week.
Oh yeah.
I still haven't quite got what the word was. I didn't understand your coding.
Oh yeah, you have to be a rapper. If you're a rapper, you're very good at rhyming, but it rhymes with taxi station.
Give me another rhyme.
Okay, it's I could just say blacks in the nation, but it's basically, if I describe it in a word, I was talking about when a person gets ill, they have to take something that rhymes with taxi station.
Oh right, yeah. Jeez, I heard about something like that. Whoa.
Yeah,
That's right, man. Jeez.
Yeah. So
I got you.
I wasn't yay or nay on what people shouldn't do, but just
Get to the video. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So you can't talk about these kinds of stuff anymore. It's against the law, the YouTube law, and also the Instagram law. But they're all owned by the same people, generally. So
Right.
yeah, all this good stuff. But
Right.
as my guest, you can say what you will. So, is there anything you would like to talk about in regards to the football incidents that happened 2 weeks ago, or anything that's correlated around the story around that? Anything you have the platform to speak?
Yeah. Well, I just came off another stream. Some white nationalists wanted to speak. They invited me onto that stream. I was just only there for a short while. I just only I just got on there. And I just come off, and we started talking about football. They started talking about football. Obviously, they're white English people, and football is their thing. And we was talking about how the bankers, how football represented the community. You see, the community produced the players that produced the team. So the football team was representing the local town or the local community, and then they'd be playing at home or playing away. So football was directly attached to a community and their identity. And then we're talking about how when the bankers started to take over, then the players no longer represented the nation where they're from or the community that they were from. It was just about money. It was just about the shirt, really, the name and the shirt. So when you raise the point of how should black people react to football fan racism, so race, ethnicity, identity is football is at its best when the players are representing a community, a nation, and so on.
Right.
Football or sports are at their best when the athletes are representing their community. And I would say, as proof of that people love the World Cup. The World Cup has a certain flavor when you see the Brazilian players look like Brazilians, and they're playing the Africans, or they're playing the German players look like Germans. So there's more excitement, more tension when you feel that you can identify culturally, racially, and ethnically with the players.
Interesting. Thank you, brother IC3. Just like to welcome brother Kale. Brother Kale, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Brother Kale.
How you doing, brother Raven?
Very good.
How you doing, Alda? How's things?
In good spirits. The battle is going well. The war is going well.
Thanks.
And how about yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Just a very interesting topic about the football fan racism. Very interesting topic, yeah.
Well, yeah. What I was saying was, I showed a video of, and it's obviously racism in football has gone on for generations. But I was saying that when you see the footage of the black players crying and kicking the ball in disgust and upset and all that kind of stuff, I feel that maybe we failed the community. We failed them by not preparing them for the real world. Like that should be expected. You should kind of expect that that's what happens.
When you say we have failed, what do you mean we have failed them? We have failed the young players?
Definitely. So
the we?
The we is when it comes to any generation of, so whenever black people came in the diaspora and they met people of different background, that first interaction, it's their responsibility to pass on defense mechanisms to the young generation, and then from them so forth. If black people are completely shocked by racism and they're so integrated in their mindset that they can't really see it, then as a community, we failed to give them the defense mechanism. We failed to do that. It seems that you only hear black people talking about black building up black African or Caribbean or whatever football kind of franchises after bananas have been thrown. And I'm saying that it shouldn't take for bananas to be thrown for you to want to fix make black people compete on an economic level. And I think I showed a video as well where there was a European gentleman. He was talking about, well, you can talk about hooligans all you want, but really, when you look about who owns the clubs and who gets hired, and that's been the same since, you know what? And I think with black people, we're so many steps behind, like dealing with bananas being thrown, that true ownership isn't really preached. And what is really preached is miscegenation and integration and you know all that good stuff there, whatever, right? So I think that's why I say that any generation above the generation who is offended failed them. So if the generation that those kids they're you know who we watching football 21, 31, whatever it is, the 40-year-olds, the 50-year-olds, whatever, they failed them. Their mother's generation failed them by not preparing them for the real world.
I disagree.
Go ahead.
Go on, Kale. You want to say something?
No, I was going to say that, you know, it predates what that gentleman was saying, because when you look at it from the medieval times of the Romans, that they have colosseums, and the colosseums in there used to be the lions, you know, fighting with the lions, and there used to be a crowd there. And then it turned to importing slaves.
Yes.
And the slaves used to fight one another, and there used to be a lot of chanting. So it predates ownership from that. There is a culture, if you look at the stadium as a coliseum, that the chanting and things like that, that predates owning the stadium. That goes back to the Roman times, even further than that. So it's strange how we are oblivious and we're thinking, oh, because it's modern times, oh, you have to own a company and things like that. But when you understand white supremacy, one of the 11 laws, it's always historic. And that, my brother, those chanting is very historical. This goes back to the Roman times.
I hear that. Thank you much. But brother IC3 had a counter narrative.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. See, this thing of we have failed, a very deep thing. We have failed. I think I would say we have failed to counter and nullify and neutralize the system of white supremacy.
Very true. Very true.
And because we have not achieved that, then everything else is downstream and are only symptoms of that failure. The racism that we witness in football is just a product of the system of white supremacy. The system produces racism, and the system manifests racism in many different forms and in many different places.
Yes.
So you cannot fix the system of racism in football without fixing it in tennis, fixing it in school, fixing it in hospital, all at the same time.
Holistic.
Yeah. So therefore, I agree with Neely Fuller. So and Brother Kwasi, I don't think you know. He used to be he's died now. He used to run a bookshop in West Green Road called Head Start, and I used to go there. And I remember one day he said to me, "The solution will come in one move. That's what he used to say. He said all the problems that black people are experiencing,
One
the
move.
solution will come in one move. He never
Checkmate,
said what that move was.
Checkmate. It sounds like a checkmate. That sounds like a checkmate.
Yeah, that's right. He said it's gonna come like that.
Is that black queen to white king? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No bits and pieces. We're gonna solve racism in football, and then we're gonna solve it in the NHS, and then we're gonna solve it after that. We're gonna solve it in the army, and then move on. And so no solving it here, solving it there. One move.
One move. A checkmate.
One move.
Interesting.
And I believe that
Now, what that move is, I don't know.
Yeah, no.
I believe that the one move has to be attached to allies in Africa in order for this to be sorted out. You see, we keep on trying to, and this is no disrespect to that Aldo or anybody, we keep trying to, it's almost as if finding these little charitable acts, if we fix tennis and things like that, but you've got to attach it to Africa, and that we suffer because Africa is not sorted out. When you have allies over there, you can build an army, you understand? And that's when you can start telling the FIFA organization that if one banana falls over, you're not getting no resources. Do you understand? By that, it tells them, well, how do you know that we're not going to get it? Because we have an army of allies. You see, our problem is always going to be this way until we attach it to the continent. We can scream, cry, and score goals unless you attach it to that continent, build up allies, have an army, as well as economics. We're never going to get the respect. Never.
And that's a very, very, very poignant point there. And that's a 10-point there. And just to go backwards to what brother IC3 was saying in regards to my statement, you're correct. The brother you said in the sense of there has to be many changes, and brother Kel's correct, as in like by having an economic base and a military base and a power structure, you have a much more demands you can make. But what I'm saying is, if we are not training the generation below about racism, white supremacy, what is and how it works, then we have failed them. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
And that's what my comment comes from.
Okay. So what do you think about this? Africa has never been united as one entity.
Yeah, you're that's true. So a lot of that. Yeah, go ahead.
So the concept of having a base in Africa, it cannot happen until by some means the African nation comes into existence. And I do not believe that the Africans themselves have the ability to unify and form the African nation, which would be a black nation, by themselves.
Okay.
I believe that the vanguard or the strategy will come from the African diaspora, and they will come up with the idea, the concept, and with one hand they'll form Africa into an entity, a unified entity, and at the same time, with the other hand, they'll put the external world or the enemies of Africa in check. So it's one move with two hands, one hand or one foot in Africa, and one hand and one foot s- holding the Western world and the other powers that be,
I
the
totally
enemies of
disagree with
Africa.
that. I totally
You disagree?
disagree with
Okay,
diaspora
go on in.
saving in Africa, because when you look at it from the Pan African Conference, the first one being in Westminster, London, and one where Kwame Nkrumah, where his conference, where he was very successful because, as we know, he was a student of the Marcus Garvey. He allowed, I think it's
Who's that?
was it 1957, 1967? He allowed, with the independence of Ghana, that a lot of Africans were allowed to train in there, where Robert Mugabe was able to train in Ghana and go back to Zimbabwe and strategize, etc. I do not believe that the diaspora can do it on their own. It needs to be the African continent as well as the diaspora together, because that's Pan-Africanism, and both need to put their both feet in. Because when you look at the diaspora out there, no disrespect to you and so forth, right, is that we are not cultured in defending ourselves from the Europeans mentally. The Africans on the continent, right, although they are controlled with the religion, but they're more braver and more willing to go to the next level. Whereas us now, we are still in that spell of, well, because I live in that neighborhood and I've got this amount of money and I'm comfortable, I don't really need to fight white supremacists as much. The Africans on the continent, Elder, believe it or not, they're ready. They just need us to invest in them and
That
to
spell,
fight.
you mentioned the word spell. He said we are still in a spell, and the African continent needs us to wake up. You see, you made a good point. Yes, spell. So therefore, the solution, is in magic, the right kind of magic, or fudun, or voodoo, or whatever. That's it. And those under the spell, it's the magic will break the spell and then provide what is necessary from the diaspora to fit into what the Africans of the mainland need to complete the picture.
Let's try to take some time to introduce Brother Razor. Brother Razor, you there?
Yeah, what's going on, mate? You're right.
Very good. Frank, brother. I don't
All
know
right,
how much
Razor.
you caught.
What's going on, IC3? What's going on, Brother Cal?
How you doing, Brother Razor?
Nah, cool, bro. Cool.
So yeah, just so the question is, how should Black people react to football fan racism? I don't know if you have anything around that topic you would like to bring up, anything, any questions you have to ask, or anything you have to say. But now's your time if you wish to.
Yeah, I'm going to try and quickly unpack this because when everything started, because I haven't watched football like properly in years. I got fed up with the punditry and all of this media nonsense around it. Like with a lot of sports, it's like whatever in it. So when this thing was coming around, you got little WhatsApp family groups or whatever. My sister was saying, "Oh, they're putting a lot of pressure on the brothers." Okay, so as time passed, when I found that they were playing Italy, I said, "Oh well, they're playing Italy, and Italy's not a rubbish team. If you know Italian football, they're very, very. They can use deception and skill in a way that other teams can't use it. So I wasn't surprised that it would have been close to the wire. And as we know, things happened. And then when the racism happened, I wasn't surprised. And I was surprised by the people that were surprised. I'm like, why are you surprised? And I think Raven, you made an interesting comment about how certain people were not taught about the reality or royalty of what it is to be, let's say, Black British, for a better term of use. And that happens from people from my generation. I'm like a late 70s baby, born in 78.
Mm.
So we still had people who came from before the boomers. They were teaching us that, I wouldn't say turn the other cheek, but they weren't necessarily being that direct about it. It's only certain ones that were very honest about the reality. And that's very few and far between. It's only people born after the 60s and in the 70s that were trying to actually put messages out there to younger people like myself. Um, so no, I wasn't surprised. I think this continuation of, because I don't want to use coarse language to express myself, but I just think in this country, regardless if you're African or West Indian, there is a weird type of Negropian foot kissing mentality that we have. And the way we treat each other is even more fascinating. Before, I used to find it very hurtful, but now I find it incredibly fascinating because it's like the racism is blatantly out here. We've all, I'm sure all of us on the panel has had blatant racism and micro racism in our face from man and woman. So it's like with the situation with football, the whole football situation hasn't been sorted out at all. These firms that run around in and out of the clubs, they've been established for decades. They're not going nowhere. And a lot of them have what we used to call NF ties. So they're not going nowhere, you know?
Mm.
One couple of other things really quickly as well. I think Kale was talking about Africa, like see, I'm drawing positives from both brothers because I get what Kale's trying to say. I do. The problem is that very few and far between people out here are gonna go against the white power structure, and now you have and also the Asian power structure. And I mean Asian, I mean people from the Western Asian parts like the Arabian Peninsula, Qatar, and Saudi, and all this, as well as a certain Turkish influence, which has always been there, Iran, and whatever the hell. There's a lot of people who have their fingers in Africa. So these leaders are not going to give up the opportunity to have their own lineage be poor. They're just not going to do it. However, you have Kigami, Julius Malema. I don't know if the temptation of South Africa will make him be that leader that I think he could be, because that's just way too much temptation. Diamonds wasn't even it was nothing before the De Beers family and who's that, Cecil Rhodes people, Cecil Rhodes and all these other nasty people were doing what they were doing. Like it was I'm sorry, I'm trying to articulate myself. I'm getting brain fart. But yeah, diamonds weren't worth shit. Let's just keep it that way, yeah. And now they are. And under South Africa is a lot of resources. So I don't know anybody else across the whole continent, because we got to go into these other countries that are heavily influenced by Islam as well. Yo, there ain't no budge. You know what I mean? I would suggest that people would check out countries like Chad and Burundi and Zambia and places like that. The more Central African countries, we don't really hear stuff about them. I've got stories from them, but
Brother Razor.
yes, brother.
Fine. I think it was in the 17th century, 17th century or 18th century, right? There was a problem in Italy, and the bureaucrats over there were taking everything. They weren't Italians. They were stealing everything and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a small amount of Italian folks that said to themselves, how can these rich people steal from us, take everything, and we're left with nothing? So what they do is they formed a government, right? And that government was called the mafia. And what they would do was they had a code of conduct, that they would protect the community, but the community had to pay them. And they formulated a supreme government, whether people want to say it's good or bad. And this government prevails in America, it prevails everywhere. The point is, brother, is that you can beat white supremacy in that. It can be beaten because ancestors before us has beaten it before. The issue is, are you willing to revolt, resist, and have a code of conduct? You see, when you study the Haitian Revolution, when you study the Maroon Revolution, when you study all the African Revolution and that, they made it possible. You know why, brother? They were willing to die, right?
Yeah.
For the
Yeah,
next
I understand
generation.
that.
We're not willing to die for the next generation, brother. And
But
these type of behaviors is the reason why that will talk and say, well, how are we going to fix racism, things like that. You can fix racism, but are you willing to die to fix it? Or do you just want to stay forever and
let
participate
me
in
let me
oppression?
quickly interject there. First of all, with the whole Italian thing, see, Italy didn't become a country until probably the 17th or 18th century, because the papal states of Italy were very dialect based, and it was, you know, they didn't mind stabbing each other with swords. So, so the mafia came about because of the traditional kind of upper class, plebeian class, and all that kind of stuff, and they formed their own borders. I get that. The thing with us is, as a race, even that formage will get blocked by, racial violence is a very real thing. You know, our brothers and sisters in America go through it every day, and in this country, we have variation of it. In France, there's probably more of it happening than we can possibly ever know. And it's not like I don't have an aspiration for it. But it's just, I just, where we are now, I don't see it happening. But I completely agree with you. It's like, that's the question. Are we prepared to die for it? I'm afraid a lot of us really are not, you know? And the type of person that I am, I shouldn't even be talking like that, but I don't know. Just, I don't know, man. I can't see it happening right now. And I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see that type of formation. But there's one more thing I'm going to quickly say. I don't feel like I'm talking too much. I can't look in the eye of another African. And when I say that, I'm saying about how we treat each other from the diaspora, from the continent, and everything else. There seems to be lines drawn that is still there. If we cannot get rid of that, we are going nowhere. So I'll leave it there.
I disagree. I
Oh.
think there's nothing wrong with division or departments. What the problem is lack of organization. So it's all about organization, and an organization is an organization of parts. It's an organization of differences, different armies, different wings, different departments. The organization gets them to work together rather than trying to dissolve. So a lot of people, there's a very popular idea that if we just get rid of all the division, it's all division, as if division's a bad thing.
Yeah, but my
division is how a hospital works. A hospital is all about division. If you give people the wrong drugs from the wrong division, they're going to die. So there's nothing wrong with division.
My division isn't
the problem
based on any
is lack
institution.
of organization of the different divisions and departments. Organization.
Exactly.
But my division isn't based on organization or any type of structure. My division is actually based on the hate that we have for each other, and I see, and it happens.
That's good. That's all good.
I'm not talking about like any other race here, brother. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo,
I know what you're talking about, but
it's
it's good.
it's
The
it's
division
quite.
is good.
No, again, I'm not. Look, no, wait. I haven't got a problem with people having their own culture and all that. That's got nothing to do with it. I'm talking about where it is. Yeah, when you're there and you're in a crew, you're in a crowd of people, right? Majority of them are white. You got the one cocoa nut. They're talking rat-tat-tat in a mixed company. That kind of hateful, spiteful, see you next Tuesday type of mentality. I
I don't
really
understand what you're
fed up
talking
with it.
about. What do you mean, kind of coconut? See you next Tuesday. What exactly does that mean?
Well, it means
What are
exactly
you
what I
talking
said.
about?
I know exactly what I'm talking about. There's
Oh,
just a
right.
lot of
So there's people standing around with coconuts saying, "See
no,
you next Tuesday."
no. You're taking my words out of context, mate.
All
Like
right, put them in context then, please.
I just did.
Yeah, as far I understand from what you're saying, that there's people in places carrying coconuts saying, "See you next Tuesday," and they're a problem.
No,
How does
they're
that
not
work?
carrying no coconuts, bro. All I'm saying is
You
that
mentioned coconuts.
the point I originally made is that lines drawn situation based on the attitudes and the type of hatred we have towards each other. If we are talking about building and organizing, we can't talk about like religion and all this other existential nonsense. We got
But
to actually
Berets,
look. Yes, brother.
Yep.
Berets, all right. Here's the thing, brother, and this
Mm,
is why I have to agree with what the elder is saying.
mm,
Life is about divisions. Sometimes, brother, you're not
mm.
gonna like each other.
No, it's
Sometimes
not based on
you're going
interpersonal
to hate
stuff.
each
It's
other.
not.
But,
No, but it's not based on
brother,
interpersonal.
if you could allow me, brother, please,
Yeah.
brother.
Sorry. Because I think it's
What I'm
both of
saying
you
is, brother,
taking
is that
my words out of context. But it's okay.
nah, I understood what you're saying. If you look at it carefully, brother, right? If you analyze the other ethnicities, right?
Mm,
European, brother, they don't like each other.
I
If you
know.
got ginger hair, they can't stand it.
Yeah, for
If you
real.
don't have this, you don't have that. They can't stand. But you know what, brother? When it comes to keeping the control and
Mm-hmm.
destiny of African people,
Mm-hmm.
ginger hair don't mean nothing.
I
Dark
trust me.
eyes
I
mean
feel more
nothing.
than you know. I know.
Understand what I'm saying? We
I
don't
really do.
like each other, brother. You see, we're too emotional and imaginative. We don't need to. All we need to do is have a code of conduct, right? Of I'm gonna help you to build that infantry in Africa. I don't like your tribe, but it's about the Africa first. That's what you got to do. We
That's
don't
right.
have these things on emotion and
That's
imaginative.
right.
This is why we get treated like children. Because in
Yes.
that proverb, there's a time to be children,
Mm.
and when there's a time to be a man. You have to be a man. It's too much emotion, brother. Too
That's
much.
right.
And
You know what? Maybe I didn't articulate myself properly. That's probably what it was. But all I'm saying is like, yes, I acknowledge the fact that we all culturally have our own identity. We're all different, and having difference is a beautiful thing. I believe that since I was 6 years old. The thing for me is like, if we are talking about being in a capitalist society, like things don't move without actually building any foundation based on any type of finance or any type of anything. You know, it's like how are you gonna build anything? It's just like I don't know. But I do agree with Brother Kel about taking the emotion out of it. That's for sure. You know, a lot could be said about certain other cultures where they have they don't like each other, but when it comes to making money and having pride in themselves, then you know what I mean, that you're never gonna shake that. And I just think we don't really have that. Not that much.
Codification builds the nation.
Right. Code of conduct and something that we can really build on. I mean, a lot of people don't like Pan-Africanism for some reason, but that's their prerogative. Whatever, For me, Marcus Messiah Garvey built something from the ground up. He tried to show a way. And we know. I'm not going to go into the history of that, but I guess we all know what happened there. Yeah, code of conduct would be nice. Staying on code or just being together. This whole idea of racism and all this. I'm like, yo, this is nothing new. I'm not surprised. The players got it was just disgraceful. Even Marcus Rashford, I remember a story about when he was first doing the whole feeding with the food runs and everything else, and the backlash he got from that. I was quite disgusted. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, I wasn't that surprised that a bunch of white people were saying incredibly nasty things because he wasn't just trying to feed black kids; he was trying to feed people in general.
Yes. So what solution have you been thinking about now? We're all quite well aware of the problem of racism. So have you been thinking about any solutions to the problem?
I've always, and this is something I believe in. If somebody wants to have a conversation about it and so on and so forth, that's great. We can hash it out. But it's not my place to change anybody's ideology, especially if they're racist. If you're going to be a racist, be a racist. Hey,
Yeah.
good for you.
So what
I'll
solutions
give
do
you
you
that.
have? What solutions have you been thinking about or written down, or have you got a plan?
What, to break racism?
To unify Africa, unify the black people, to organize and build something from themselves so that they can nullify white supremacy and move ahead and do something constructive for themselves. When I say them, I'm talking about IC3 black
Mm,
people.
You know what, Alda? You know what I believe that the players need to do? They need to use the strategy of what the Honorable Martin Luther King did when he organized the African people to do not go under buses for 386 days. They need to not play normal football and take the football into Africa, right? Because let's be realistically in that the top players are the African players. The top players in the world are the African players. So they're the one that make the
Facts.
football. So what they need to do is pan-Africanize, politicize their ability, right? Take that into the African League. It's going to make money, right? And this is where they're going to get the power and that. And then from there, this is where they need to find the synchronizing African. And then we can build infantry and invest more. It has to be done that way. They have to use the strategy of the Honorable Martin Luther King. Other than that, it's not going to work out.
Okay, good point. Now, I'd like to challenge that or investigate that. It's
Can I
quite
ask
a
you a question,
popular
quick?
model.
Hello?
Go on then.
Yeah, all right, cool. Well, just to quickly answer that, and it's crazy. I thought about this like many years ago, and the only thing that I could honestly think about is something based around some type, not the current African Union, but some type of union where diaspora people, including our brothers and sisters in South America as well, and America, come together and doing the conference and actually have things written down based on international law. The one missing component would have to be money or some type of financial structure to build from. I know there's a bunch of thieving people of all kinds of all races. I get that, but it just seems to come down to those type of things, and maybe there's something else, but yeah, on those type of platforms, we don't need to talk about anything that's going to distract us in regards to our tribes or anything like that. I mean, shit, still keep your tribe, keep your language, keep everything else. I would make a case for Swahili being a lingua franca because it's a lingua franca in a lot of places, including the Congo. And yeah, just that. Those are the only. That's the only thing I can think about. I know there's something else I see free, but I can't think about it right now.
It's all right. It will come. It will come. As long as your mind is in that mode, the ideas will come. Now,
no doubt.
this issue of money. Money is not the problem. Money is easy to get. What we need is the vessel. You got to build the vessel, and then the money will flow into it.
Facts.
People are chasing money. How can we make money? How can we raise money? We need money for this. We need money for that. Chasing the money, but they got no bag to put it in. They got no pockets. They have no bank. Chasing reparations, chasing legal this documents, this artifact, this. Where are you going to put it? They've got no place to put it, no infrastructure. So that they was just saying on the panel I was on before, he said, build it and they will come. Don't chase the money. Just like you guys who know about, you don't chase the girls. You do what is necessary, and the girls will see, and then they come to you. Don't chase the money, because the money will run away from you. Build the infrastructure, build the vessel, and then it will come to it. So you got the focus is sovereignty. You have to have a sovereign entity to receive the money that you're looking for, and the money that you're looking for is going to come through reparations.
Okay.
Don't chase money, chase justice, and justice digs up and flares up the money.
Okay. The reason why I was referring to the strategy of the Honorable Martin Luther King, because the players are the wealth. Wherever they go around the world, they're going to increase the marketable of themselves. So, unfortunately, when it comes to football, chess, and all these things, right? It's capitalism, racism. That you cannot destroy that unless you have a system that can dominate that. So, when it comes to our players, right? Because they are the wealth themselves, if they take that into Africa and play for the African League, right? What's going to happen is that it's going to increase, right? Now, we've got a loads of money that will happen from there naturally because they're going to get it. But that needs to be given to the Pan-Africanist Garveyites, not the unsynchronized Africans and that, because they're the ones that's helping the Europeans to destroy us. And then that's when it can be taken forward on the principles of Garveyism in order for our liberation to succeed. Because reparation, elder, and seeking justice, you cannot seek justice unless you have power, unfortunately. Many of us are seeking justice. When our younglings in America get shut down, we're seeking the justice, we're protesting, but power is everything that will help with the justice. If you don't have the power in that, justice never gonna come for you.
Okay, so let's have to get power. Now, you talked about footballers going to the African League. Is there an African League for the footballers to go to?
I think
There's
in individual countries there are,
There's loads.
yeah.
Is there an African League?
Oh, I know what you're saying.
I don't think there is.
No, I know exactly. I think again, it's like when the African World Cup happens, it's based around.
There is
FIFA.
an African
It's not
League.
There is. Is it based around FIFA or is it like an independent league?
Right. Now we're going. Let's think.
Yeah.
So let's explore this. Let's see if these where these African players will go. So let me type in African League. Let's see if I can find African. Let me type this in. Google search African Football League. African Football League. Let's see what comes up.
So can I quickly say something, Elder? Really quickly. In regards to finance talk you were having, it's interesting that there are black bats in the UK, but for me, this is just a personal thing. In the connection of colonialism and everything else, I don't know if I'd put my money in it. In America, there's a certain amount of independence, but we all know what kind of country America is. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Right. So I'll type in African League, and I've got here Confederation of African Football. Yeah. It says that the Confederation of African Football, or CAF, is the administrative and controlling body for African Association Football. CAF represents the National Football Associations of Africa, runs continental, national, and club competitions, and controls the prize money, regulations, and media rights to those competitions. CAF, the Confederation of African Football, is the biggest of the 6 continental confederations of FIFA. Since of FIFA, okay, of FIFA. So let's see who FIFA is then. FIFA is the International Federation of Association Football, is a non-profit organization that describes itself as an international governing body of association football, futsal, and beach soccer. It is the highest governing body of association football. So I'm saying there's no African Football League. The league is controlled by this FIFA, and FIFA owns it, right? So that's why I was talking about sovereign. Yeah, an African Football League would be a sovereign African entity, and unless it's sovereign, it is not African.
That will make me start watching football again if that actually happens. I swear.
Now, right, we understand that there are certain entities that use the mindset of Karl Marx, you know, the communists and the Marxist strategy, where, you know, owning corporates is better to do it as an organization instead of individually, right? But remember when I was talking about Garveyism, and remember I was telling you about the mafia and that, you can have a government under a government. Do you understand? You can have all this FIFA and things like that, but who say you can't have a government of African Football League owned by African people? Who's to say you can't have that? You can have a government under a government. The Honorable Marcus Garvey's made it clear. There's many ethnicities who have a government under white supremacy. They do.
Good. All right. Good point.
Do you understand?
Right. Good point. Yep. Good point. All right. Good. You're doing well. Strong point. Strong point. Now, to have a government within a government or under a government or a government in exile, right? This government, we stay in the theme of football. This African Football League would be a league within a league. I understand from what you're saying. A black, truly sovereign African league within this Confederation of African Football under FIFA. Now, the question is, how do you organize that government? Organization, you see? So you can see we're talking about a division now within the division of another division. So the division of FIFA, called the Confederation of African Football, and now I like the idea. You want to create another division that is sovereign in itself within the African Football Confederation. Now, how is that government, that sovereign entity, going to be organized?
That's simple. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said that in any form of institution that you are developing or succeeding in, you need 3 things. First of all, you need your culture. right? The second thing that you need to have an African political agenda, right? And the third thing, your economics. You see, Elder, we have a government that's been set up, right, where the Honorable Marcus Garvey reinvented Pan-Africanism. You see, he brought nationalism back. People say, well, Pan-Africanism is older than the Honorable Marcus Garvey, you know, Alex.
You cut off. Can't hear you.
Oh, brother, where you?
African people,
Can't hear you. Cut off.
what he brought back was nationalism. You see, if the African people nationalize every single thing they do, we'll be okay. We'll be out of the situation.
Where is this
You
government
understand?
you mentioned? Where is this government that Marcus Garvey has set up? Where is it now?
Garveyism.
Okay. Where's the head of the government of Garvey?
The head of Garveyism is wherever you need to be. Okay, we do have Michael Dunklin. We do have him. He's the 11th president that preceded the Honorable Marcus Garvey. But I'm referring to the Garveyism of nationalism. Could be anywhere. You could be practicing that government in your house. You could be practicing it in an office.
Right. You're saying
wherever you need to be, wherever you are, you bring Garveyism there, and that's how you get on top.
The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League. So the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a black nationalist fraternal organization, founded by Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican immigrant to the United States. Right. So are you saying that this league is a government?
Garveyism is a government. Pan-Africanism is a government, Elder. You should know that already. It's a government. It's governed by social rules, political agendas, and economical betterment. That's a government. The Honorable Marcus Garvey reinvented the Pan-Africanist government. So yes, it's a government.
A government has to have governance and so what are the citizens of this government?
Elder, all due respect to you now. All due respect to you. You see, you're using the Europeans' philosophy. Remember, these philosophies like the judges and the police, all these things come from Africa anyway, or every last one of it. Do you understand? So if we're going to base it on them, we have to base it on the root. You know what I mean? You can police your own areas under using Garveyism. You could have institutions and schools using Garveyism. You can have banking, whatever institution that there is that you're developing. The Honorable Marcus Garvey made it clear, you need to Pan-Africanize it. You don't need to look at, it needs to be like the European way. No, the European got it from the Africans anyway. It needs to be on Garveyism because he brought nationalism back, Elder. This is what's going to liberate us. He brought the nationalism back.
So these footballers now, you're saying that the black footballers should form the African footballers should form an African Football League, because there's no African Football League at the moment. And this African Football League would be a league within the league, correct?
For now, yes.
Okay. So, in order to do that, are you saying that resources should be focused on trying to contact these African footballers and persuade them to form a league of some kind?
That is going to have to be the agenda, in truth, and also the leftovers of the wealth, right? Because they're going to be making a lot of money.
I can't hear you. Your mic is gone. Your mic is cracking up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So that is going to have to be the option, right? There is a problem with that though, because I notice, and this is no disrespect to the African footballers, you know, they're my brothers. Some of them do have non-African girlfriend and wives. That's going to be
Nearly
a
all
problem.
of them do.
Okay, now that's going to be a big problem because I've made it clear already. When you go into socialism and that, you are automatically have to be loyal to the
your
social
race.
that you are. So that's going to be a problem, right? They have
Right. So how to solve that problem then?
Well,
Because we're talking
Brother Raven,
solutions now.
right?
Solutions.
Okay. So what I gather from what Brother Raven says, right, is that there is black better. What did he say that time? Brother Raven, you have to help me out, man.
I'll
Yeah,
jump
I'm
in.
here. I'm here, bro.
I appreciate
go.
that.
So you're saying what, Black Betterment and Black Betterment building? Were you talking about the
That's
definition?
right, yeah.
Right.
When
Yes.
you
Let's break it down. So when it comes to lifestyles, there's two. Let's break it down, right? So one lifestyle is known as black betterers, right? And the black betterers are black people who are dedicated to helping black people in every single area of activity. And so that includes the institution of marriage, meaning you marry another black person. You know, you form constructive unions with other companies and those kind of stuff like that. But it's black people and black people. Now, unfortunately, for history circumstances, some people might fall short of that, and they might not decide to marry another black person. They themselves cannot be viewed as black betterers. But if they actually do a particular betterment in the activity, meaning they go around training black people how to play football, or they go around making a black bank for black people, whatever it might be, then they can be seen as black betterment builders in that area. So that's
Okay,
how
black betterers, and then two black, what do you call it? Black
betterment builders.
Betterment builders.
And you'll notice that when you see me at Speaker's Corner, I'm mainly promoting black betterment building because that's the more easier entry level concept, because I understand that because black people are collectively inadequate, you'll find that regardless of who they are, the majority of black people in certain circumstances will be compelled to not marry a black person. See, because as a collective group, we're inadequate.
Right. Okay. Any other groups? I've got one. Black betterers, black betterment, two black betterment builders. Is there three? Right. Is there three?
In the lifestyle of black betterment, those are the two, because black betterment is a very simple concept. It's black people helping black people on black issues. Whenever you go outside that concept, it's no longer, and the side analogy to remember is the concept of veganism. Veganism is where you do not eat animal products at all. When you do that, it's no longer veganism. That's the same with black betterment. There you go.
Right. Okay. So the problem we're staying in the theme of football, and in our solutions discussion, we're saying that the black African footballers should form a black African league or a black African football league, and that this black African football league can be formed as a league within a league. So we understand that they're already African football is subject to FIFA. So there is no African football league. So we're seeing as part of the solution to get the African players to form and play in an African league, organize themselves for an African league within the league. And then Brother Kale brought up another problem, that all these black African football players are with white wives or white girlfriends. And that's a problem. What is the solution now?
Now, here's the thing, right? Now, on Garveyism, it's really simple. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said that if you were married to a non-African, you couldn't even join the organization, let alone fund it. However, due to certain situations, and in Garveyism, right, that the Honorable Marcus Garvey teaches is that you have to Pan-Africanize whatever situation you are in, and you have to build bridges with certain other African brothers and sisters although you do have to have a mechanism to protect their unsynchronizing, which can infect you. Why I mentioned that Brother Raven's technique, and it's a brilliant technique how it categorizes the different types. But we still have to be careful because socialism makes you be loyal to that. So at any given stance, unfortunately, they're unsynchronizing. I don't want to use that word, could infect us. So it has to be something temporary, not permanent.
So let me expand upon that. So obviously through close contact, people's behavior patterns can be influential, and that's why divisions and categories are important. Now the thing is, amongst all black people, you can qualify for certain things by doing certain practices. If you don't do them, then you don't qualify. But one of the strategies I push forward is a realism strategy, and understanding that some of our greatest maneuverers might actually by default be unsynchronized. Now, the unsynchronized of those people, as I was showing when I was showing the football players crying and being very upset by the racism, I was saying the generation above failed them in the sense that they didn't prepare them for the real world. So unfortunately, when it comes to what marriage truly is, unfortunately, the generation above failed many of the football players and failed to show them that just the fact that you're a person of influence, you're making more money in a year than people make in a lifetime. And marriage, you're essentially giving half of your wealth to your wife and the other half to the wife's community. This can never help black people progress. And you are inadequate because people are throwing bananas at you. And the people throwing bananas at you, you are trying to marry their wives. This is the issue that black people go through. And I understand why black men don't understand this. You got to understand that we find ourselves in a complete bamboozlement. So sometimes it's about trying to rejig and work with what we have. But certain principles can never change. Like if you want black people, if black people are not with black people, and that process is continued, then then eventually they will no longer be viewed as black people.
Yes. Okay, but you all start to go back into problem mode. Let's go back to solution mode.
Right.
How are we going to deal with these black footballers? Yes, and your suggestion, this Black African Football League, which is a league within a league. And you're the ones who mentioned that there's a problem. You mentioned the problem of the white girlfriends. So how are you going to get these black footballers into this black league?
All right. So
the Honorable Marcus Garvey, in his philosophy, says that when it comes to African people who are unsynchronized, that you have to attack the identity. If you look at those players there, right, they all know that they're African, but at the same time, they want to get ahead of the curve. So if we, with wisdom, attack the identity, and when I'm saying attack, I'm using to remind them of the reality, because they could play for whatever football team they want. You know what I mean? And you can take off the football T-shirt and play for another team.
Remind them of what reality?
You cannot take off the African makeup what the Creator has given you. So the Honorable Marcus Garvey made it clear that you have to emphasize on the identity. And the identity is that they're African and there's nothing that they can do about it. And
are you telling me that those African players do not know that they're African and they need to be told?
They know that they're African, but at the same time, because of conditioning, and as what Brother Raven was saying, is that they believe that we're all equal and we don't have to emphasize on our African identity, and that you may need to emphasize and attack that in helping them to build for the African League. You see, there was an individual, I mentioned this before, Father Divine, right? And Father Divine, and he was a brilliant man, but unfortunately he married a European woman. He used to fund the African communities in America. He done brilliant things, but at the same time, because he was married to a European woman, he led them into socialism, you see. But he understood that I'm an African and my people need help, because he was being influenced by the teachings of the Honourable Marcus Garvey, as well as other black organisations. That's what says you have to attack the African identity, and they will come forward.
All right. So, what's the best way, do you think, to attack the identity of the African footballers to help them to come forward and organize in a new black African football league? What's the best way to attack, do you think?
I'll jump in on that. So obviously the concept of an African league, that's, you know, I haven't pushed that forward, but I do agree with
African
the concept.
football league, because we're talking about football, so we're focusing on that theme.
Just to show you, when you say league within the league, just so you know, in ice hockey, there are two predominant leagues out there. There's the NFL league, and then that's governed by itself, and then there's the national ice hockey league. I forgot what it's called, but they don't operate underneath each other. I mean, they're two separate entities.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Your point is,
FIFA has monopolized in being like the sole football entity, right? But you can actually just make a separate league, and you just form your own teams, and it's just not in synchronization. Not that I'm saying people should do that. I'm just saying that has happened in other sports around the world.
yeah, is that a solution for the black African football players to form the Black African Football League? Should they form a separate league? Is that what you're suggesting?
That is a solution. Even though
it is a solution.
That is a solution, yes. Even though I would say that is a solution. I would say before we even get there and think back there, I would say more baby steps. And the baby steps is things like showing ownership where they're at. Yeah, meaning that, you know, if they're going to play in the Premier League, why don't they try to own a team? Why don't they try to own a stadium? Why don't they try to do something like that as a starting point? Because creating your own thing might be a bit more challenging because you need a whole load of people together to do it. I'm not saying it isn't possible, but that might be a harder step where they find themselves, right? And I think
so you're suggesting that the African football players should put their money together and buy a stadium in Africa somewhere, and then that will be the beginning of the African Football League. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not actually saying that, but I'm more talking about. I'm not going as far as I'm saying that wherever black player there is, the first start is ownership. So that could be you owning a team in England, owning a team in London, owning a team in Leeds. But ultimately, you know.
What do you mean own a team? Own a black team, or own an African team, or what? What do you mean?
So the ultimate goal, having an African owned tournament in Africa is great. But I'm saying for the people who find themselves here who might not have that kind of connections, their starting point might be they try to own their local team, or they try to own the team in their league. They try to be because all these football teams have owners, yeah, but none of the owners are black, right?
Okay, hold it there. All right, okay. So, as a part of a solution, if the poor as well as the rich, they should own a football team based on what they can afford and their ability to do so.
Well, yeah. So what we're saying,
and the poor and the rich, which who are you referring to, Alda? Just to clarify for me.
No, because you were talking about the African football teams, the top football players, and Rap Raven's talking about the local ones in the UK. But the basic principle that both of you agree on is that the players should own a football team. And one stadium
as well,
correct?
And a stadium as well. The money they get, they can get a stadium as well. I totally agree with an institution as well.
Yeah.
All right.
So more important than that, brother, IC3, and this is the most important part. It's the mindset, and the reason why I talk about lifestyles is when you analyze vegans and stuff, right? You realize by having a lifestyle and people agreeing to the lifestyle, everything falls in place because there's an agenda. You see, and the agenda is black people helping black people on black issues. When you accept that agenda, naturally you start gravitating towards ownership. Naturally, you start gravitating to helping other black people and hiring other black people because it's part of your lifestyle.
Yeah,
and
okay, that's simple. That's simple. That's simple. Now, this ownership. With the rich and the big players, the top players, with their white girlfriends,
Mhm.
The things they spend their money on
Mhm.
could affect their careers. Do you accept that?
Yeah, I suspect so.
Yeah. And if they start making ideas that they're going to organize this black league, they might start losing their positions or their job, or so I think they will do, because as history has shown that. So that is why I don't see this money model. I know it's a basic model. Get successful, make lots of money, and then help black people by buying something, and
Hold
then
on,
start.
let me add to
That model is so
let me
often it's like, oh.
Let me add to it, right? And I think the reason why I never go far ahead is because by having simple steps and understand the psychology of humanity, things actually fall in place.
Right.
You see, with a vegan will change the way they shop, change the way they eat, change where they go, and change everything about them to correlate with the philosophies and lifestyle of veganism, because they truly feel at one and synchronized with animals, meaning they no longer see it's necessary to
But talk about football. Yeah, it's obvious what you're saying. Vegans do vegan things.
Hold on.
But put that in the context of football. Because when you go to vegan, it goes all over the place.
No. So this is where the high learn is. This is what we call analogies. And I understand, because you're not really a hip hop artist, it's all new. But let's do the
But now
analogy.
you're going about hip hop and music. So you go
Hold
from
on.
vegan, football, vegan, and now hip hop artists.
So
Stay within a certain mode.
We can
push the theme.
This is the mode. This is because we started before when I tried to give the rhymes you didn't get. I'm trying to keep you on this level, right? So let's keep moving, right? Because we're almost there.
Yeah, but it's obvious that vegans, if they want to be vegan, they're going to do vegan things. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Hold on, bro. We're almost there. With the philosophy, if the mindset of a black person is always looking inwards, all this stuff of being fearful of losing your stuff wouldn't matter. You see, because it becomes part of your lifestyle, meaning you're actually trying to find ways to do this, whether you're doing it covertly or overtly, because it's your mindset. Right now, these black players, it is nowhere even near their mindset. Their mindset is in the form of kumbayarism.
And football, yeah, okay.
No, but football through the form of kumbayarism, meaning we're all equal. No bananas are gonna hit my head. We're all to win it, that kind of stuff, right?
Rather than, and if they do, I'll get lots of money for it.
Yeah, the first fear is, I'm a black person. How can I use my platform and knowledge to help other black people? Because I'm in a privileged position where I can have power, influence, and wealth and all this kind of stuff, right? So that once a person thinks that way, yeah. So what we do, we have to influence the influencers to push that forward. This really is a successful strategy, as it has been demonstrated in other areas. Now, the idea is to get black people to think on that wavelength. You see?
Right. So how are you going to get the footballers to change their way of thinking?
Thank you. So when bananas hit them in the face, yeah, what we do is we say, you see, we want you. We told you. We do campaigns and we show them a picture of their father. Hold on.
Oh, come on, please.
Listen,
no. That is just too feeble. No way.
Can I come in?
The press are doing that themselves.
Hold on, brother. Let me demonstrate. Then you can show your.
Go on.
So we show images of their fathers being hit by the same bananas, then their grandfathers hit by the same bananas, and we put campaigns saying, "What's going to change? You've been trying to hug non-black people for so many years, but all you get is free bananas." So I'm saying, yeah, and let's try something new, yeah, and we decorate it and we campaign it in the form of black betterment, yeah, and we make it a lifestyle. Right now, men will go out and get makeup. They'll go and get any kind of what's the other word? Any kind of whatever it is, because they've seen some lifestyle where this is acceptable now. Yeah, before men wasn't wearing skirts, they'll wear skirts now. Before they identify as men, not anymore. Yeah, so we understand things can be influential. So for people of power and means and intelligence have to influence the influencers to then influence other influencers and get a code of conduct consistent. Yeah, that is very possible. But
in order to stop bananas being thrown at you. Listen,
Listen,
if the guy's
the
getting
bananas will
millions
never
of
be
pounds a
hold
week,
on, hold on, brother.
he doesn't care about
Hold on.
bananas.
You're making it ever so slightly simple. Bananas will never stop flying at black people. It
Right.
will never
So that's
stop,
part of the
right?
business.
But what you do is you use the bananas to help educate black people of how to make it not affect you psychologically. When we first started this show, I showed videos of black people crying, rolling the floor because they never suspected that the people they love so would throw bananas at them. So we use this as a camera and say, you know what? As long
Are
as you
those
love
top
yourself-
are
hold
those
on.
top players crying and rolling about on the floor
Yes,
because bananas are thrown at them?
yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And they're doing it in private too.
Yeah, doing it private, of course, definitely. Yeah, I'm saying
And
these are campaigns, brother. I see free campaigns are important. Campaigns are why when you go to the shop, you buy this particular shoe and not this other shoe, right? And I think with black people, we cannot be ignorant, to propaganda and marketing, because propaganda and marketing is why people are saying what they're saying today. It's a very powerful tool, and because we're collectively inadequate, we do not want to utilize it. However, Brother Raven is here to be consistent and show that I shall use it. And through this consistency, the people once who were screaming kumbaya, they will change. As you will demonstrate in Speaker's Corner, when I first went there, everyone seemed to be a kumbayarist, but as time went by, it's almost like there wasn't, and they pretend they've always been on this wave. That's a good thing because campaigning and consistency works.
And that's what I was saying, right? Is what when Brother Raven was saying that you're showing them the reality. That is what the Honourable Marcus Garvey was explaining about attacking the identity. I just want to clarify something as well, is that when you've done internal healing, right? Why I said that it has to quickly get an institution, meaning external, is because one thing that we do as a people and that we'll get all knowledge and we'll say, yeah, I know who I am and this is happening. And we get comfortable, right? Comfortable with internal, and we don't want to put no work in. That's why it says, although all due respect to Brother Raven and stuff, right, baby steps, and he's right. However, the external, meaning getting the institution quickly, black people have to do that quickly because we have a tendency of relying on internal knowledge and things like that, and then not getting anywhere. So that's why I said to be a hasting thing. As soon as the internal thing comes, boom, external institution. And I do believe that those players can buy a stadium, and I do believe that they can have a league under a league. Until we have our security and investment in Africa, we can rival other nations, and that it has to be a league under a league.
Can I say something really quickly?
Go ahead, Razor.
First of all, I'm loving this conversation, and secondly, especially the whole football analogy. I look at let's say a team like Dulwich Hamlet, for example. There's lots of lower league teams. All they need is the true backing from the people and like a main head financier, as well as the people to actually make things happen. But the most, some kind of figurehead of some sort, because sometimes you need somebody there to have the firm hand so they can handle certain things. And I think, especially if you're using this analogy with football, the one thing that really, really counts is entertainment as far as media is concerned. TV rights, even stuff that they play on radio. All of this stuff has to be paid for eventually. And especially if you're talking about African football, mate, the type of money you could honestly make out of that, I couldn't even tell you the numbers. But you need to have a control over who is paying who and who is getting paid by who.
Good control, right? So what's the best way to get control? You need order, don't you?
You do.
For control.
See, FIFA has a figurehead at the top of their tree. You understand? It's the same thing that could be with if the African players decide to come together in whatever forum they come together in. They still need to have somebody at the top of the tree. That's hierarchical structure. That's the only way I can see it, anyway.
Oh yeah, so they can get shot like Marcus Garvey and it's like Malcolm X. Yeah.
No, I mean, I'm not saying, be the sacrificial lamb, but I'm just saying, innit? You know what I mean? You don't know what
Well,
can
that
happen.
model of organization results in people getting shot in the throat or shot, like Malcolm X and
Yeah,
Martin
I
Luther
understand.
King.
I mean,
Now,
look,
I'm glad you said that there, Alda,
Pardon?
because I'm glad you mentioned that there. When you understand us as a people, right? Nobody wants to get killed. Nobody wants to get hurt. But the reality of what we had to do, Alda, that we had to risk life. You see, this is the difference between the African and the Russian. The Russian will blow himself up than to let the Americans know the secrets, hideouts of Russia. He'll rather blow himself up, you see, because he understands. I'm not saying you should blow yourself up in the sense that we need to do some, euthanasia thing. But what I'm saying is that sometimes, brother, in order for the next generation to continue African excellence, some of us are gonna have to go in the grave. This is the reality of it, and we don't want to accept these things. Martin Luther King died for us. Tupac Shakur did. Malcolm X did. You understand? Jean Jocelyn, all those African elders and ancestors, right, who fought for us, they died for us. You know what I'm saying? When in the Haitian Revolution, they're putting their hands in the cannon so other Africans who are fighting don't get killed. This is collectiveness. That's Pan-Africanism. But today, we don't want to sacrifice. We're too comfortable. And that's why I'm saying the difference between the revolutionary Pan-Africanism and the African groups who say they want liberation, but in actuality, in that they just want to participate in oppression.
that I completely agree with.
Hold on,
I
family.
Go
Before
on.
I let you say, but we are coming to the end of the show now, and I'm gonna say this was a fantastic talk, and definitely we want to have you back again next week. But finish your thing, Razor, and after that we'll have our final say. So go ahead, Razor. Brother, finish what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean Kale's probably mentioned this 2 or 3 times already, but it's the truth. It's the ultimate truth. If we're not willing to sacrifice a little blood, how are we going to get things done? Because the white power structure around the world is dealing death. They are even paying others to deal death, i.e., example, Papua New Guinea. So it's everywhere. And if we're not really looking to actually truly fight for what we want, even if we're talking about being in the UK, I'm not going there. But even in the UK, if we're not even doing that from where we're starting from right now, we're not going to go nowhere. I do think there's solutions to the problem, and I reckon there's enough people that can do it. But it's about the mindset, and yeah, that's what I've got to say, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation, by the way. But yeah, salute.
Brother Kel, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say that the Honourable Marcus Garvey has left the government for us, and we are grateful that the Creator allowed this intellectual and alpha male to reinvent Pan-Africanism and leave a government for us. And the principles what he laid down for us in any institution you may be in is that you need to Pan-Africanize your politics for African agenda first. You need to Pan-Africanize your economics for African agenda first. And you need to Pan-Africanize your culture, meaning that there cannot be no misappropriation of non-Africans using your culture. You need to Pan-Africanize it. And I think that's a beautiful thing he left down for us. And it's been a great show as always, Brother Raven, IC3, Elder, and Brother Razor. It's a pleasure.
Salute to you as well, bro.
Thank you, family. And last but by no means least, IC3, what's your final thoughts?
Yes, great show, great conversation, and good food for thought. And I think we need to learn from Marcus Garvey in that it has to be a fraternity, because the United Negro Improvement Association was a fraternity. When the women get involved, it goes haywire. They can get involved at the right time when the fraternity is ready. And that's it, really. fraternity and liberty.
Thank you, my friend. And I'm sure we'll be covering something like that next week. So for everyone, next week, same time. Black Betterment. If you're viewing now, please, if you look in the description, the actual dedicated Black Betterment channel is there. Please subscribe to there, because eventually we will transfer over there, and we'll have other people with their shows, and we'll have more than one show a week. We'll have different shows from different people, but we need to get a minimum of 500, I believe, for YouTube to work. So please do that. But until then, come back here, and I'll see you here same time, same place next week. Black Betterment, thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care.
God bless everyone. Yeah, salute.
Take care.